Hey guys, welcome back to What the Fat. Today we have on someone who's an incredible guest. He's a friend of Josh Perry's as well. You guys have heard me speak with Josh, but really I was looking through this guy's story, and the one word that just kept coming to my mind is perseverance. Like the guy's overcome so many trials and tribulations, and I'm super excited to share his story with you guys today. So without further ado, Chad, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much, mate. It's a privilege to be here. Really pumped to have a conversation with you.
Appreciate you jumping on, man. And your story is incredible. Like sometimes people and I talk a lot about perspective and like understanding that like things could always be worse, right? And like someone would look at some of the things that you've gone through and be like, wow, like that would be their worst. And you've still come out on top and you're still crushing it and having an amazing positive perspective. So can you share with everyone a little bit about your background, some of your story, and then leading up to like the
Yeah,
first cancer diagnosis?
yeah, of course, man. And I'm mindful of time because I can kind of go on one because I think I was talking about this last night, and what occurs is something significant like a cancer diagnosis. That trauma and that significant life event then activates a response in us. And so if we're looking at that story and what makes me, I've got to talk about my childhood. Like I've got to go back to those, you know, those those conversations and those things that my parents, my mates, my brothers, that they just used to drill into me. Like particularly my mum, there's something that she used to talk to me about. When I was young, she always used to say, you've got to be resilient. And we were like, what's that? I'm 35. So when you're talking about resilient, everyone knows about it now. Angela Duckworth and her work that she's been doing, etc. Like it's amazing, right? But back in the day, no one knew what really resilience was. But and whether that had an indication and an influence on how I was able to respond, I'm not sure. But I know that on that day, so I was living in London. I was working for the government over there. So I'm a trained social worker. I did studies in family therapy while I was over in the UK. And I was working in like complex family circumstances. Like I was in frontline child protection and walking into some fairly harrowing and fairly challenging circumstances and being that person to support other people through their stresses and through their traumas. And so I think I already had an advantage because I'd already been in these, like, if we look at that context of child protection, you're in a circumstance where you've got children who have been significantly, like, at risk of significant abuse, right? And then you're the person in there to have a conversation where you're representing the government to then go in and have a conversation with these parents about the safety and the dangers for their children. Like, it's a pretty, like, in many ways, I was prepared for it as well as I could have been. So I was over in the UK. I got rushed to hospital. 4 days later, I got transferred to this other hospital and things started just moving. And when they told me initially, the very first thing that I thought was, I'm going to get better than ever before. That was the first thing that came to my mind. So there wasn't any, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It was just like, bang, something switched. And I'm like, and that better, like that belief in better, wasn't just about my health. It was just that opportunity to be, I'm going to be a better man. I'm going to be better at my job. I'm going to have better knowledge. Every area of my life just kind of went tick, 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 tick. And that was just like this strong why that just ignited. And then that was something that just continued to pull me and pull me and pull me. And I liked, this isn't my work, but rather than being like in that circumstance, many people then would be saying, and that pushed me and it pushed me and it pushed me. It didn't push me. I got pulled towards being better. And then if I'm trying to be better on a daily basis, well, then if I'm using that as a first principle, well, then how am I going to go about things? Yeah, I've got chemo and I'm feeling nauseous, but I'm not getting better if I'm just sitting down. Like I didn't have an end time. I was on a chemotherapy. I had a life expectancy of under 24 months. And if I was to be alive, I had it like most, it was a pretty rare case. had a stage 4 adrenal cortical carcinoma. And there, because I got diagnosed in the UK, my hometown is Australia, the decision was made by the medical team over there that I had to come home. So I wanted to kind of do it on my own over there, but at a round table, like I was walking into a room and there's 14 people with clipboards, walking in to see me. And I was all about trying to increase the knowledge. So I'm like, come in, come in, come in. But one of the biggest decisions in why I went home was that they're like, listen, your body needs your climate. You're going to be recovering and you need to go home for that climate. And I probably didn't get it as much as I do now. But then I came home and there were rules set up straight away that, yeah, okay, I'm meant to have a short life, but I'm not going to. And there's no way I'm just going to sit down and watch Netflix. There's no way I'm just going to do, all these. I'm going to get up and I'm going to train. Now, regardless if I'm feeling nauseous, I'm going to that gym and I'm going outdoors because I need the exercise. And I've got cancer, so I don't want to have cancer and I don't want to be the cancer guy. So if I'm trying to be better, well, I've just got to push through this nausea. And if I'm going to be nauseous, I might as well go to bed with a smile on my face knowing I've been to the gym and I've been outdoors. So yeah.
That's incredible. So let me ask you, when was the first, how old were you when you got the first diagnosis?
29. Spent my 30th birthday in hospital and all my mates, I got a number of good boys around me. They came out on my 30th. Had a little chocolate cake, which I don't even think I ate back then because I was like, no, I was already on the health train. And yeah, I kind of had to pull the celebration short because my stomach from the surgery, I couldn't laugh and they were just trying to make me laugh the whole time. So I was like, those times you just like, you can't laugh because every time you laugh, you're like, you've got the internal stitches and you're like, no. So yeah, having to go back. But yeah, I was 29, got diagnosed, came home, had a tumor with my kidney in it and it was 20 centimeters by 15 centimeters. And then I started chemo. So I started a daily chemo called mitotane, which is a derivative of DDT, banned from human consumption, 1972. I was pumping that into my body, AM and PM, man, toxicity levels. And yeah, it wasn't wanting to take any other drugs. There was options, but I was already poisoning. I was already putting things in my body, which I knew I had to take, and I was in favor of that, and I was making decisions that was going to be the path that I took, that I have taken. And I've continued to this day, got a very good relationship with my medical team. So it's something that I still continue. But I've just been fortunate that I've been able to move forward from that.
And I remember I was looking at an article and like the size of the tumor, like most people think like I don't really think it puts it in perspective of how big your tumor was. It was literally like bigger than a softball. Like it was huge.
We're talking like a rugby ball, yeah.
Jeez. And so did it just what triggered you to get that checked out? Because I'm always curious on what
Yeah.
caused you to go to the hospital to do that?
Yeah, I got rushed to hospital, man. I got rushed in an ambulance. I didn't really have any symptoms, not really that you would that would indicate, hey, I've got cancer. I was living in the UK. It was cold. It was an early winter, so from the back of September to October, I had a flu, and I couldn't train. Like that year before, in the May, me and a mate climbed Mount Kinabalu in Borneo. Then in July, I cycled from one side of the UK to the other. And so 6 months later, I've got this thing. So, it's likely that that's already inside of me. And then it was just from training, So I look at I look at health, and obviously how healthy I am now is way different to what I was then. I was like, one of those people going to the supermarket and going to low fat options because that's what I thought I had to do. Just been brainwashed for years with low fat this, low fat that, and I'm healthy, and then I train every second day, and that's me done. But at the same time, I'm binge drinking and I'm doing these other things, right? So, yeah, but I'm more healthy than most. But what is health, right? But it was only after training. So I would train, and the next day, just bang, and I was like, I must have glandular or something, like something was starting to. So I went to a clinic one day. and I got misdiagnosed. I don't hold any, you know, don't hold any judgment or concern about that person either. She was, I just went in. No one thought that, it's pretty hard to detect. Even after I found out, so to fast forward, even after they knew this was inside of me, and it was 20 centimeters by 15 centimeters, 7 doctors couldn't feel it, man. So it was just like
Wow.
tucked up inside. So for me to go in, of course, she wasn't going to be able to find it. I got misdiagnosed as having acidity within my stomach. And that's when like the nutrition thing started for me. Okay, how can I control this? How can I try to? Something was already inside of me then about what can I do and how can I solve it and what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Still to this day, obviously it's ramped up a lot, but it was already there. And that's what I mean. Like it has the capacity to bring these things out. So it wasn't just the case of, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to occur. I would be like with my doctor saying, walking in with my notes, walking in with my prep and wanting to make the best decision, not putting anything else in my body that was going to take me off course for where I needed to be. But then a year later, it came back, man. That came back 13 months later, lived like a saint, lived like a yogi, made all these lifestyle changes, was in a good mindset, no stress. One of the biggest things I did was, okay, I'm going to change the pace of life. So I was the guy that was like timing himself to get to work. I got to work 2 minutes faster. That's a good outcome. Just crazy stuff, right? And so then it was like, okay, I need to change in a lot of ways. Like there's some things that I need to go about in a different way. I think you're always going to have that moment of reflection and moment to question yourself. Maybe you're a little bit too hard on yourself at times, but you're able to uncover a truth that is inside of you. So then you have a choice. Okay, I'm going to respond, and I'm going to change, and I'm going to go about this in a way where I wasn't able to do before because I was just living in a way that wasn't in accordance to like this true self. So I think that now we have these things, there's a sensation or there's a thought, about these key decisions in life where you set out to do something. I'm not sure if it resonates with you. And there's this sense that we get to do something and we don't listen. And so one of the biggest things that I try to do now and what I support others to do is if you get that, and at times you've got to cut through here because it's going to be super noisy upstairs, right? Like the noisy neighbor. But if you can go to your heart or your stomach and there's a sense, that's what I mean. I'm probably not explaining it right because I just don't think it's a clear thought. Like I don't think it's so clear. I think it's kind of a message that you get at times where we probably do get it in a thought, but it's also a sense that we should make something, make a decision or do something. And I think what I try to do what I tried and what I continuously am in search of is to just listen. And it doesn't happen all the time. Like these things, maybe a couple of times a year, 4 times a year, 5 times a year, but trying to listen to that. And one of the things was slow down, man,
Mm.
reduce the pace of life. And it's interesting, man, like a lot of what I do now is only possible because of those 2 years. Like the rules I set up, the writing I did, the creation of a model, the creation of another method. Like I spent time working on myself, analyzing my mind and going, okay, like I need to be my first client because maybe it was arrogance as well. I don't know how it comes across, but I was like, I need to sort myself out.
Right.
And it's interesting, like that concept of mental health. It wasn't that I was down and low, like there was stuff going on. I was managing fine, but I think I was managing fine because I was consistently just figuring out what was in here, trying to uncover and discover what it was about. And was obviously about my fear or multiple fears: fear of not being a father, fear of not being a husband, fear of not then getting back to work, fear of death, and entertaining that stuff, man.
That's
Yeah, I can go on, man. So I'll
no,
I'll put it over to you.
no, that's powerful. And so I think like being diagnosed, it was stage 4, right? Stage 4 terminal cancer, but it wasn't once, it happened multiple times. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So it came back. As I said, like 13 months later, it came back. I had the size of an orange, and then I had two on my lung, on my right lung, and one on my left lung. And so I went through the whole surgeries again. And then on my first review, so on the first, first clear day, first scan, my mum got diagnosed with a stage 3 bowel cancer. So then
God.
she had surgery the next week, and then she went through her chemo, and on her final day, so on the day that she finished chemo, I got re-diagnosed.
Oh my
And that
gosh.
third diagnosis was an inoperable prognosis. I had cancer, well, there was cancer inside of my stomach, my lymph nodes, and my lungs. Hadn't responded to any treatment for 2 years, couldn't operate. The surgeon said to me, yeah, I hope to speak to you in 6 months. And like when I say that, I don't hold anything against him either. Like he was just, he'd operated on me twice before, and he was a good guy. He'd come to hospital on a Saturday morning in his civvy clothes and have a chat to see how I was. And I was like, wow, this guy really cares. And then he called me to say that. I haven't gone and seen him yet. It is on my to-do list. Yeah, and then I had another professor who'd been in my care, and yeah, I went and saw him on the Tuesday with my dad. And by that stage, I'd kind of gotten through the whole I'm going to Mexico for a one-way ticket, or like it was seeking out a shaman or going to surf, but I wasn't going to live. I was going to die in this fantasy. And then I stumbled upon something which had a little bit more sense. And there was a guy from Melbourne in my country called Ron Walker. He was a businessman, and he was able to get himself on this immunotherapy. And it's one of those times where like people in the past had told me, like there's this quite a significant influence in my life. I've never met her before. She's a friend of a friend, and her husband died of cancer. And early on, we kind of connected through a very good friend of mine. And she was just like, if you ever hear about immunotherapy, like go for it. But it was early, man. Like this is 4 years ago. And I don't know, like nowadays you're like, yeah, 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 yeah. There's certain things that time, these options weren't there, these options and the results that now are showing. It wasn't the case. But as soon as I saw that, bang, the light went on. I remember she talking about that. And then I saw something else, and it's kind of like these dots, like you're able to then go, okay, okay. And I went into my doctor, and literally this is how the conversation went. I walked in the door, and I said, you need to put me on this drug. And he said, I've already put your name down. I said, cool. I shook his hand, and I said, there's not much else to talk about. Like, no time for feelings. Like, it may sound weird, but I didn't need any of that.
Right.
I know what I needed from him, and that was to get me on that. Now I had there was other ways that I had to deal with what was going on inside of my head and my heart. But for him, that was there was respect from us both about we've got an outcome. Let's just do it. And it's like kind of like a mate. When you're with a mate and you can just be quiet, and it doesn't need to be like, oh, what's up, man? Why aren't you talking? Like you can just be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not the best example, but like there was just an understanding from both of us. Like we know the stakes. We know the stakes. So let's just tell me when I'm on. I don't want to hear anything else. 6 weeks, multiple scans later, I got accepted. And then, yeah, it was a treatment, immunotherapy. Didn't respond for the first 2. Then I started keto. And, yeah, had like a 70 or 80% reduction in 10 weeks.
Oh my
And so it was
gosh.
gone from my stomach, gone from my lymph nodes, gone from one of my lungs, and there was this one little thing. And then I had to then it didn't leave. It just stagnated for a while, probably like 14 months. And then, yeah, kind of it went away. So that's it, man. There's a lot
So
of things that kind of go with it, but yeah.
So that's the common. So basically, it was a combination of immunotherapy and a ketogenic therapy combined, is what you implemented.
So I was advised not to. So
Hmm.
I was advised that I wasn't meant to do anything else with it. The way that I see it is that medicine has a very important part to play, and there's a knowledge there that we need to take on. Um, the decisions that they make are also decisions that they think are best because they've got data to support them to do that. That's generally what I put. Like I have my hand on my heart, and I think that I've been very fortunate for the doctors that have been involved in my life, and they are extremely knowledgeable, and I'm not here without them. But the experiences of what I've had to go through on a daily basis and what other people have to go through on a daily basis, that's when you need to tap into another side. And to give you an example, I was one day at a hospital trying to get the cancer blueprint going, and an oncologist said to me, Chad, what's the difference between what you and I do? I said, very easy. It's time, skill, and focus. And she was like, and it didn't take me anything. I didn't prepare either. It was just very simple. The time, you have 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, and you got people waiting in that waiting room, and they need to come in and they're going to unload. And the focus of what that conversation is going to be about is the cancer. My focus is the person. And now your skill and what you look at is how to treat the cancer. And what you need to see is that my skill is that I complement what you do, because the secondary factors and the things that you're not trained to do and where you don't need to, like what you're unable to go to because of your focus and your time, is where I go to. And that's the impact on your mental health, on your physical health, on your relationships, on your finances, on your employment, on your sexual health. All these factors, which at times are more significant for people than the cancer, needs to be explored, and people need to be supported with that, particularly if we're looking at this as a trauma. And if we're looking at it as a trauma, and the reason I say that is because if we see it through a lens of a trauma, well, then we need to respond as if it is a trauma, because there's a weight associated with it. Think about it. When someone says, I have cancer, there's a, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? There's a concern, because we know not only is their life at risk, but their life and their family's life, sorry, man, is going to be thrown into chaos. It's thrown into chaos because it's trauma. So there's a weight associated with it. Yet, are we at a place where we need to be, where people are able to tap into the knowledge that you have, are able to go down a path where they're supported to go, okay, what options do I have? Like I used to play around, like I would intentionally go into my scans and go into my blood tests without eating for 3.5 days. So fasting for 3 days, and I'd be curious as to see what they'd pick up in my bloods, and nothing ever came up. And when you're deep in a fast,
Hmm.
so you're 3 days without eating and you're kind of like wired and you feel you're doing something like a little bit naughty and you're
Uh-huh.
like, we're going to get in trouble here. Like, what's going on? But it was more just, this makes me feel good. And so like day 2 of the fast, maybe day 3, those times when I'm not feeling so good, I simply reframe that to go, oh, it's working. Yeah. The discomfort that I'm feeling and this like wired state, my body's healing, and this is what I need to be doing. And then I walk in, I get my bloods, everything's fine. And I walk out and I'm like, okay. So just trying to take it into my own hands, man. Like if I took the advice, and I'm not advising other people here to go against your doctors. I'm not at all. Like, and I'm sorry if that's coming across that way, but there's knowledge that you need to tap into. And I think you've got to take charge of your life. And ultimately it's your body. So make decisions, but to make decisions, it's very hard to make a decision, an informed decision about a treatment on a cell level that the average person doesn't have any idea about. So get a good relationship with your doctor, your healthcare provider. get that relationship. Like one of the things I did early on, like I was quite lucky, I got his mobile number. And there were times like getting like 3 or 4 times a year when I'd have to go to my local hospital, or I was freaking out, There were just times where he had to respond. And, my GP, my general practitioner, he was a legend and he's great, but he wouldn't know what to do. And if I went to the hospital, they would all need to go back to this guy anyway. So I would just wait until it hit 7 o'clock in the morning and I would just bombard him. But I would only do that at times where it was like an emergency. And so what he learned was like, okay, if he's contacting me, I need to respond. And I never went to him for like forms. I never went to him for, hey, should I have antibiotics? None of that stuff. It was like, oh my gosh, this is happening at the moment. What the hell do I do? Okay. It's a good thing you called. So, really having that. I talk about people need to have an A team in their life, and the A team is a combination of family and friends, but also health professionals and other groups, etc. And it's like trying to empower you to get people in your life. And key to that is having a good relationship with your doctor. Yeah.
I love that. No, I love that because so many times, and especially in the nutrition world, especially where I come from, there's people, colleagues of mine that go, "Oh, screw doctors, screw this," and I've never taken that stance. I've said, you know what? One, at the end of the day, they're worried about saving someone's life that they might not have the same education or understanding or know, like, cool, what the latest research is over the last 3 years. I don't put that on them. That's why I take a huge responsibility, and I love that, like, you take a huge responsibility in doing your own research. Because at the end of the day, like, I'd rather them focus on being able to cut around a muscle tissue or an organ and not hinder that versus trying to find what the latest cutting edge science is saying about the latest treatment that, if even if it's non-ketogenic or ketogenic therapy, whatever it is, like
Yeah.
they're not focusing on that. So I love that you said, you know what, it's important to build a relationship with your medical professional and then like build this like back and forth trust because he trusted you that like, hey, listen, if you're going to come to him with something, he knows, all right, he's done his research, it's an emergency, whatever it may be, and you built that trust. And I love that because I think so many people miss that mark and miss that point, and just go, they just discount them and go, nope, they should know everything, they should do this, and then they create this
Yeah.
animosity.
I definitely agree. And it's also, there's a specialty in one thing, right?
Right.
They're a specialist in what they know. And as I said before, what they're doing is what they think is best.
Right.
And there is a lot of other things out there. I know that the amount of diets, the amount of different remedies and all this sort of stuff that I tried. People sitting up there on stages and promising the world about these things, and you've got vulnerable people out there willing to do anything because all they want to do is live.
Right.
And so there's a responsibility from doctors at times to uphold the rights of patients, etc. Right? So if they went down and every little new remedy that came out, if they were on top of that, that's not their role. But then you've got other people out there who can promote that. So for the people who do want to seek that out, they're already going to be following these days. There's already a bias for how they're going to go about that. That's cool. Just know the place, know the team. They're there for that. Get educated, have a discussion. That said, at times, I can't speak for, as I said, all I can speak for is my experiences. I've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate to have good relationships. But that relationship, the second doctor I have now, so whoever oversees my care, we didn't really get on for the first little bit because I came in from having this one doctor for 2 years. And on the first meet, I said, okay, like there was just things that I was used to kind of controlling, in some ways. And I was like, well, I don't look at scans, so I'm not going to look at scans. So just like when I'm all clear, just call me and let me know. And she's like, no, that doesn't happen. It's my responsibility to show you and you need to see this and da, 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 da. And I said, listen, like, I don't know, but I know for myself, if it's your duty to make me see those scans. But you don't know what I then think and what I live for the next 3 months, having this vivid image in my mind of a Christmas tree. Like I used to come home with scans and try to put them to the window. I didn't know what I was looking at, and I'll just be like, "What's that? What's that? What's that?" And I just went, "This is like there's a whole thing about information and how much information is actually helpful. Like people need to get away from information at times and have belief, man. Like it sounds, not everyone's going to connect with it, but I just stopped looking and I started visualizing where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. And this idea, what I spoke about before, about being pulled to something more significant. Because if I'm not going to be present, if I'm not going to be here, generally I'm going to be in a fantasy. And that was about a fear. So that was about my death. Or that was about what song are they going to play at my funeral? Or what's going to happen with this? All this bullshit, man, which is like, if that ever came true, there's no winners.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here. I've got sad family and friends around, but I invest my time into that when the greatest thing that I want and the greatest thing that I'm working hard for is life, but I don't live because I get trapped in a fantasy. So then if I understand that the significance of what I'm going through is going to have an impact on me, well, then I'm going to use that time to move away from this side because all my fear is here, and I'm going to look to this side and I'm going to create a vision of the future, and I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to fucking build that stuff every day, all day when I need to. And that is constructing this future vision, which isn't just about, like the construction of a visualization. It's like what details are going to be in that scene which indicates that there's a life of happiness, fulfillment, success, and health, right?
Right.
And so that is who's going to be holding my hand, what role am I going to be in that picture, what setting am I in to indicate where I've been. So I'm not there going, oh, I hope I have $1 million, I hope I have $1 million. No, it's I'm going to be in this setting where there's, I can tell you what it is because it's so clear. But in this picture that I go to, because it makes me happy, I'm married to my wife, we've got kids, and we're opening something. We're opening a center, and that's what I'm striving for all the time. And how that's going to look, I don't know, but that's the pull to be at this place. We're outside these big gates, and we're cutting the ribbon, and she's holding my hand, and we've got these 2 little kids. And it's, it takes a while to construct that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I love that because it's one of the most fascinating topics and probably one of the most controversial in the medical field, particularly with cancer. And it's something that's personal to me because a couple years ago, my uncle got diagnosed with cancer, and he did not know. He did not know, and literally diagnosed on a Friday, right before Thanksgiving. They told him he had 3 months to live. He asked to go home that night. They wanted to keep him in the hospital. He asked to go home that night. He cuddled up with his dogs and he died in his sleep that night. But like part of it is part of it that I've always had the question about is like how powerful that concept is. And I know there's a lot of
Man,
talk in the medical field about like when someone gives you a timeline, like that sense of hope when it gets taken from you, how quickly people react to that. And it just you just hit the nail on the head with painting a vision and how important that is. So what are your thoughts on that?
man, I got told that you're going to palliative care, and I had my vision, right? And I call them fantasies. So my fantasy was, and I then went to a Google search. Where am I going to go? Am I going to go to the Amazon, or am I going to Mexico? And as I said, like before, there was no sense that I was coming home. I was going to die, right? And that was the information that I had. Now, a year later, I was actually in the Amazon with a girl that didn't exist in my life, and I hadn't thought about this at all. And we're cruising through the Amazon. It's raining. We're just in this little canoe, and it's the murky water and it's this dense forest around us, and I'm sitting at the back feeling happy. And I just thought for a little bit, I was like, whoa, like I wanted to come and die here. And now I'm in love and I'm in the Amazon. And this is so much better than what I ever thought. And people say to me now, like, no, but it's terminal. It's terminal, Chad. So, like, there's no point of having hope, or no, it's terminal. And I just think, like, I was fucking terminal 5 years ago. Like, keep on going. Keep on going. And if people are here saying you're being unrealistic, my response is, if I'm feeling better in the short term, so if I'm feeling better here and now, and if I'm feeling better, that means that my body's not flush with stress and adrenaline. And if I'm feeling more gratitude, I'm feeling more connected, I'm feeling more happy, maybe, just maybe, my body's in a better situation to respond to whatever medicine or whatever treatment I'm going to go down. And that treatment could be conventional, it could be some sort of clinical trial, or it would be a combination of them, plus a nutrition plan, plus a movement plan, plus cold therapy, plus breathing, plus a life that is dedicated to going to where you need to be. Because if I'm doing that, I'm going to feel more in control, rather than sitting there with this death sentence. Rather than a time frame, it's a death sentence. You got 3 months to live. Someone's going to die in 12 weeks, man, That's the reality. So, yeah, I believe that it's too powerful. And I think that patients should have choice.
Agreed. I love that. I love that. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about like your day now. Like, what does a day to
Yeah.
day look like for you today? Like, what does that look like?
Still a slave to my habits, but a slave to my habits because they make me feel good. Like Jocko says, it gives me freedom. It's not that I'm like, oh, wow, I need to do this. I know how good life can be, and I know how good a clear mind is. I know how good feeling productive is. I know how good feeling love is. I know how good feeling energy is. I know how good focus is. So all I want to go and just double down on that. So I've got a set routine that I do most days, if not every day. Like I've got a few non-negotiables, and then I've got other things that come with it as well. So what I like to look at is in terms of a force field. So if I build a life around these force fields, it simply doesn't give this the opportunity to mess with me. So if there's a dent in my day, so if I haven't done certain things, this thing may try to then bully me. It may try to put a big spotlight or like light a match on something, which then I need to go to work to get it out, because I know that I've put a dent in my armor. But if I live in accordance to how I need to live, which is I start every day, no matter what's going on, with 3 cycles of breathing. So 15 to 20 minutes of breathing every day, no matter what. And I finish the day like that. So they're my non-negotiables. Cold therapy is something I do every day as well. So there's no way that I'm not, unless maybe I'm a little bit, if I've had an infection, which I've had recently, so I've had a bit of hot water. If my body has, if I've just come off a flight and I feel that it's a bit too soon and I don't want to shock my system too much. But generally, it's cold therapy breathing. I then have my goals that I want to write out every day. So I write out where I need to be, what I need to do. And it's not only for the day, it's for the year. Exercise. So I train every second day, no matter what. My yoga. So I do I do yoga nearly every day. If I train in the morning, I do a yin in the afternoon. If I'm in Sydney, I'm in the ocean 100% every day. Sunshine, 15, 20 minutes a day. And then I've got a fairly rigid plan to how I eat. So I change it according to my needs, but I was doing a lot of fasting, but I'm trying to put on a little bit of weight at the moment. So I'm going to take out some of the fasting, and I'm just trying to load and just trying to eat a little bit more. At the moment, I'm eating predominantly plant-based. I don't like to say that I eat a certain way. It'd be interesting maybe to get some advice from you, because one of the biggest things that made me stop keto was this was a while ago. I didn't have enough information back then as well. So now it's different, I imagine, because I know it's definitely different now. But my bowels didn't work amazingly when I was on keto. And yeah, I wasn't regular. And I was doing that for a little bit, probably like the last 3 weeks. I was on keto for probably 10 months, strict nutritional ketosis under 10 grams per day. I did a refeed probably once a month. But yeah, under 10 grams of carbs for 10 months.
Wow.
And then I just got to a point where I felt that I needed to change. My body gave me these signals, and the only other option that I was going to do was plant-based. It was either one or the other. Yeah, and that was the biggest thing, my bowels. And I was eating heaps of greens, man. I was like, heaps and heaps of greens. There's this really good website that I had, and it was Keto Go, Keto Go Go, and Keto Go Go Go. And so anything that was Keto Go 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 was under 2 grams of carbs. So I would smash that. So I'm fairly rigid in what I do. So I have the same food every day. So I have the same breakfast every day. I have the same lunch every day. Yeah, so it's a bit boring maybe for some, but not every day, but generally it's a very similar diet. And that's all about not only for health, but it's time management and it's focus,
Right.
Sorry, man.
No,
Been talking a lot. My throat's going on me.
no, it's good, good, and a lot of it's electrolytes, especially for someone like you. So that probably contributed a lot to it. Typically, magnesium is one of the biggest with bowels, but I love that. So what do you typically eat now? Is it mainly just all like plant-based? Do you eat like
Yeah,
avocados, stuff like
heaps of, oh man, my fat. I still get
that?
like, bro, yeah. Every meal I look at, I try to get my macros. So I need to have protein, fat, and carbs. So that's how I try to look at it now. I was limiting carbs still a lot. So I wasn't in ketosis. I wasn't doing keto, and I was having some quinoa and stuff. So when I went back to plants, there were some changes that I had to make, obviously. But I still wasn't going, still limiting my carbs by a lot. Whereas, it's just been the last week where I'm trying to put on some weight. So I think it's time I'm just trying to play around at the moment. So I'm trying to consciously think about how I can put on weight. So that means that I'm trying to go about things differently. So I'm trying to eat 5 times a day. I'm trying to visualize a stronger body, trying to train differently, and trying to, put different fuel in my body. And that simply comes back. So I'm not one of those guys who just visualizes and doesn't act. But I'm thinking, if I need to put on weight, well, I've been doing this for a while now and it hasn't been working, so I need to do something different. So yeah, that's kind of what my focus is at the moment. It's just trying to be at the forefront of my thinking as well. Okay, I would usually eat this now. Okay, cool. Now load up and we're going to eat this as well. So just trying to add on, like trying to layer on different changes at the moment. The other big thing, like cannabis oil, is something that I've had on a daily basis since the first reoccurrence. So when I started on chemo, and again, it's, another change. Like now, it'd be like I'd be all over that straight away. But at the start, I was like, I'm on chemo, my body's not working, but my mind is, and I'm, doing these. I had an anonymous blog, and I'm doing this journaling and all these different things, and I was like, I can't jeopardize my mind. Like, I don't want to get paranoid. I had a little bit of weed when I was young, but it didn't agree with me. So I just didn't go near it for years, nothing. And there was like the stigma associated with it and what it was going to do to me. And then, the first reoccurrence, and was kind of tossing up what I was going to do. And I sought some counsel from some of my good mates when I was over in Indonesia. And I was like, I don't know if I stay on these drugs or whether I just go for quality of life. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I don't want to be fatigued and nauseous every day. And, try to ask some mates these questions, and, good mates who can answer those questions. And then, I walked out at a doctor's one day and I was like, okay, I'm committed to going back on the chemo. And that day I got told I was never going to be a dad, never going to die of an old age, of anything else except for this. Like, this was me. And I went, you know what? Why not try this? Like, I had another friend who was saying, you really should try it. I want you to look at this video and all this sort of stuff, right? But not pushing, just like, and I went, man, yeah, I'll have a look. And yeah, I had it, and I was, no joke. It was 6 o'clock in the evening, and I was at my parents' house, and I was lying on the floor. I was lying on the floor listening to some music, and I felt good. I was high. It was a THC oil, but I was on like some pretty strong chemo. And I then got up and I went to the table. I ate with my parents. I chatted. I ate food, and I went downstairs to my bed. Now, you're probably, and a lot of you out there are probably going, that's normal. That wasn't normal in my life. Like, every afternoon I was in bed because I was fatigued. If I'm at the table, I'm sitting at the table with a hoodie on. I'm not engaging much, and there's a theme and there's an atmosphere at the table because I'm unwell. And then in bed, every night when I'm in bed, every night, I'm nauseous, I'm lonely, I'm not happy, And at that time when your head hits the pillow, it's like when shit gets real, right? Lights are out, poof, this thing comes on. And I was in bed happy. And I was like, wow, well, I got to do that tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Never again had side effects, man.
Wow.
Never again. In a month, my parents got their son back. In 3 months, I started employment again. I went back to court. I went back to work, Family Court of Australia, as a family consultant. On chemo, full-time chemo, back at work. And within 5 months, I was off to pension. So in my country, I was on the highest tier pension available because I was terminal. And in 5 months, I was no longer on it. Now, if we're looking at like evidence and data, it's there, man. And it's there in terms of it supports an individual with the side effects of chemotherapy. Now, I'm not one to make claims and say, oh, it's going to cure you and it's going to do all that. I don't go near that. But what it does, it rebalances your body. It lifts your mood. It gives you an appetite. It makes you sleep. If you're facing your death, maybe having a little bit of something that lightens the mood and lifts the load is actually therapeutic and a good thing. So yeah, that was another thing. I wasn't advised to take that either. So there were things that I did that weren't recommended, but ultimately that was all about, they were my decisions. So they were it was all about what was it like on a day-to-day basis, and also what was going to support me to get to where I needed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, and I actually did a podcast with Paige Eaton not too long ago, and she's very big into medical cannabis. She had a lot of struggles with depression, anxiety, and I have family members that suffer from things like multiple sclerosis, and like just
Yeah.
seeing and Crohn's and everything, seeing the impact it's had on them, I can only imagine. And so I'm a huge proponent and advocate of medical cannabis and utilizing, because you just hit the nail on the head. Like, why does someone need to go through the suffering if there's an option for them to go, you know what, if this can help alleviate some, even just some of the side effects, why not? Why not? Right.
And if it doesn't and the placebo kicks in, well, it's a
Why
good
not?
thing.
Exactly.
And if they're not using opiate, like, come on, like,
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that, man. And so you've gone through an insane amount of trials and tribulations, but I love your perspective and your attitude, and I think that's led you to create this cancer blueprint. Can you tell me a little bit about what the cancer blueprint is and kind of like what you do with it?
Yeah, man. So it's based on this, like the mission is based on this belief in better. So I simply believe that in addition to an oncologist or healthcare providers, individuals need and require support with their emotional, psychological, social, and physical well-being, and all that should be part of a treatment. So the treatment should be about who the person surrounds himself with. Sorry, man. Their identity, their emotional and psychological well-being, how to eat, how to move, how to meditate, how to sleep, and putting all that together into a care plan, into a treatment plan that supports the individual to live better, longer. That's what it's about. So there's a
Right.
theory and there's 10 skills that I teach. So yeah. And what I do, I personalize the content. So everything is unique to the individual. There's obviously some things people who come and see me have seen what I post about and know what my beliefs are, but I don't have a bias. So I'm not there saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But I'm going to question them, man. What I want them to do is to answer the question of, oh, I'm not doing alkaline because this guy's come over and said that I need to eat 20 lemons. Everyone's going to have that friend, whether it's the keto friend now, whether it's the plant-based, whether it's the fasting friend, whether it's the cannabis friend. Everyone's got that friend. But what I want people to be able to do is, I'm doing this because, and I want them to be informed about what they're doing, because if they're doing that, then they're going to feel more competent and more in control of their life. And the biggest thing that we need to combat is uncertainty. Uncertainty about my life, uncertainty about my future, uncertainty about my finances, my relationships, my sexual health, my well-being. All this uncertainty is heightened. So what you need to do is try to be able to create certainty and control. And the easiest things to control is what goes in and how we move it. That's a baseline, right? Then you need to look at this. So we need to get some stability through some foundations. You need to move, you need to eat, you need to sleep, and you need to meditate. And on the back of that, you're already going to get a lift. You're going to get a lift no matter what. Yeah. And then from there, we then get a capacity to tap into their values, their beliefs, their fears, their thoughts, their worries, and their concerns. But we have a better capacity to do that when we improve their baseline.
That's incredible, man. I love that, and I love that there to support their medical professionals. Like it's not like, hey, I'm trying to say screw what they're saying. It's, hey, I want you to be informed. I want you to be confident in whatever you're doing, and
Yes,
here's why. And I love that you're
yes.
addressing that piece because it's very very much needed.
And here's how we reference it as well. So here's the journal articles that are supporting what I'm talking about, right? So there's obviously some of the stuff in terms of visualizations. There are some papers out there,
Right.
and I do reference them. But everything that I want to and everything that I do give out will be supported by evidence. Now, obviously, in this world, there's contradicting evidence. I get that as well, but there's an evidence base.
For sure, for sure. Now, I
Yeah.
want to be respectful of your time because I know you're doing a lot of stuff, but I mean, everything you've talked about thus far is incredible, and I think there's so many things that people can, if anything, gain a whole new perspective on life and understand like no matter what trials and tribulations you're going through, you could always shift the pattern and go, you know what? Let me look at this through a different lens. And that's one of the things I talk about a lot. But
Mm.
if someone came to you and asked, Chad, what's your mission? What's your vision of what you're trying to, what type of legacy are you trying to leave on the world? What would that
Yeah,
be?
man. I want people, so my big focus at the moment is continuing my work in a face-to-face environment through, through serving existing clients and future clients. But also I want to create, and I'm in the process of creating a technology, an app, which is going to be able to scale some of my strategies. And I want to be able to do that across geographic locations. And I want to provide a quality and consistency to people so that they can have access to this information. They can have inbuilt accountability, tracking. Like, there's all these things which are going to empower them. And the biggest thing that I'm driven by isn't anything that's going to come in the future. It's when someone gets it and they go, finally someone gets it. And that's what drives me. And I said that to someone last week and they laughed at me. But that's what I'm driven by, man. I want myself from 5 years ago or someone now to be like, he gets it. And if I do that, I'm happy, man. Because if I do that, it's then going to go well. Because if I get it and they get it, they then help me co-construct. So I'm at a place now where I've brought my knowledge to a certain position. But to take it to that next level, it's going to be collaboration and there's got to be input. Now, I know how it's going to build out. I've got an idea about how I want it to go, but I actually don't know, because we're going to release the first release is going to come out, and then we're going to see how long are people clicking on this for? What are they watching? What are the feedback? What is the feedback? How are they scaling it? Have there been improvements? Like, I'm not going to push something and I'm not going to try to get something out there if it doesn't work. So the main thing is, let's test it. There's already been 4 stages of testing to get it to where it is, and we need to test the next stage. And then we're going to keep on going. And yeah, if we're always driven by someone gets it, I think we're doing a good job.
Love that, man. And I also look forward to one day coming to visit your center and meeting your wife and 2 kids as well. That'll be a fun time.
Yeah, man. Love it.
Love it. Now, last thing before I let you go, where can people find you? Where can people find you on social media? And then where can they also find out more information on the Cancer Blueprint, the app, all the stuff that you're working on?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so Instagram and LinkedIn. Instagram is Chad Walkaden. LinkedIn, Chad Walkaden as well. You'll be able to find me. My website is cwcounselling.com.au. And then, in terms of the application, it's going to be coming out. We're just doing some testing still on it. So we've got alpha testing at the moment. So we're going to be releasing that very, very soon. So if anyone wants to jump on, just reach out to me. Reach out. That's my details. I respond to emails. I respond to Instagram. Like, I just had someone the other week and she said, I saw you. I'm going in for this is what I've been diagnosed with. Can you please send us some motivation? And I didn't send motivation. I just jumped on and 8 videos, straight to her, went deep. And yeah, I think it had a good, her response was pretty happy, and, that makes me happy. So that's my day made. You see that, like, we're in a world now where you can connect. Like 5 years ago, I would have been reaching out to me going, oi, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Right.
And obviously I wouldn't tell him, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to listen and go where you are. And then we're going to take it from there. But the world is now just like, that's like how I met Josh. I just saw him and I was like, wow, this guy's a legend. Hey man, how you doing? And hey bro, like, people want to help. I think the people you want to talk to and the people you want to hang with, they want to help. So reach out to them, connect. Maybe they don't reply, but they don't. Just go to the next person. It's fine. Exactly. But you got an opportunity now to be like, okay, I can connect with this person. Hey, you got any recommendations? I can quickly take 10 minutes of your time, 15 minutes of your time. Maybe they say yes, Right. Yeah, like reaching out to you, man. I'm like so happy, man. So grateful that you've had me on, particularly when I'm like, man, I can't talk. Like, grateful for your time, man, and the work you're doing for all of us, mate. You're pushing forward And it seems we're so much aligned in terms of this middle place, this centric, where it is like this central position where it's, hey, there's so much evidence from here, but all this needs to be seen. And this side is going to be catching up with this side. So this is where it needs to be. And I see you leading that, so thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And if there's anything ever I can do to help you, support you, anything, I think the world needs more people like you. I think the world needs more people like Josh Perry, and literally having your ability, like having the ability to reach out to you, having the ability to reach out to Josh, like I encourage people to do that all the time, because like that one little impact can radically change their life, and then they carry that forward. It's like the butterfly effect. So
Yes.
I appreciate everything you're doing, man, and keep spreading it and keep doing it, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on,
Thanks,
brother.
man.